I didn't know whether the moon was full and ripe or just a slender crescent, balanced on its side like a white edge of an eye. Out there in the woods, the trees were thick and they were tall, obscuring the sky. Even on the brightest summer day, you could see the only flashes of blue. The trees were greedy, hoarding all the light for themselves at the very top of the canopy, letting only pittance shine through. So either the trees were blocking the moon, or perhaps clouds were a layer of them like a floating sheet. Or maybe there was no moon at all. Maybe it had vanished, bounced away from the earth. It seemed possible tonight that the universe had gone insane. Luckily, I knew these woods. Not only did I know the path that reached from the beginning of the forest in our backyard and extended deep, crossing a stream, running behind all the homes on our street, but I knew the landscape that held the path. I'd memorized the large rocks. I'd used them many times as desks, cars, horses. Beneath one low flat stone, I dug a hole and buried my lucky fireproof box. I'd placed varied objects inside, leaves baked with fall color, the silver ring from our trip to Mexico when I was small, a collection of stamps from countries so exotic I couldn't pronounce their names. I would return as an adult and dig up the box, I thought. It was my time capsule. I knew these woods and didn't need moonlight or any light at all to know my way around. But terror was dulling my vision in a way the darkness couldn't. I was barefoot and grateful for the thick cushion of moss that grew in the great blankets across the forest floor. At other times, I gently peeled this moss from the ground, careful not to tear it. I would hold it before me and think, you could almost wear this. But the moss was fragile and would break apart if you tried to wrap it around yourself. Still, it astonished me that nature had created sheets of something so wonderful and green and soft it would be all right to lay a baby in it. I could see Jabs from his flashlight cutting into the woods on either side of me. He was back there, somewhere. The light beam was like a knife, and I didn't want it on my back. I dashed to the right, through a clutch of young silver birch trees, and ran up the embankment, crouching forward to maintain speed. With his bad knee, he would have trouble with the hill. Lumbering forward, he would need to pause and massage the swollen, throbbing kneecap, catch his breath. The hill would slow him. But when I suddenly realized the beam from his flashlight was gone, I worried that he cut around, that he'd thought one step ahead of me, that he was already on the hill, climbing it from the other side. What if I reached the top and he was there to meet me? I veered back to the path, then crossed it. I wanted to stop and listen, but I couldn't. Fear pushed me forward. My breathing roared in my head, as though my ears were beside a gigantic caving machine, a bellows stoking some hellish fire. And for sprains, and for sprains, and for sprains, I think this will be good. We'll grind it up and mix it with the mud from the stream and then put it on the sprain. Birch bark will be for when your heart races. You'll apply a paste on the chest. We stored an inventory of honeysuckle gathered in spring. The dried, shriveled blossoms could be consumed whole and contain the power to revive somebody close to death. We'd infused the ferns, flowers, leaves, and berries we gathered with healing powers. We never sampled our drugs because we were afraid of them, though to admit this out loud would have broken the spell. Not far from the hospital was a wooden bridge, just a flat roof of thick wood planks over the brook that ran parallel to the street until it cut back and followed alongside Greg's driveway. Beneath the bridge was our rock factory, where we smashed stone against stone, looking for diamonds. We believed that if we split enough rocks, we eventually would find the center of an ordinary gray rock, a perfect white diamond, already cut with the dazzling facets. Once or twice we panned for gold with one of my mother's spy bands, but it was diamonds we believed in. In the other direction, just past my house, was the pond. Here we crouched down the overgrown blurry edge of the water and scooped clouds of pollywalks into our hands, just for the vivid sensation of feeling life slipping between our fingers and dropping back into the water. The pond was rife with all that was alive. Cattails bursting white fluff, throaty frogs, snakes, and turtles that could take a finger. There were cunning little birds in brazen colors that flashed about like wild thoughts and perverse impulses. The slowly majesty of a beaver's dam at the mouth of the pond amazed us, being finer than any fort we'd ever managed to construct ourselves. When a stranger parked alongside the reservoir and went for a walk beside the water or along the path into the woods, we stalked them for a distance, feeling possessive of every tree. I was 11, and I was strong, and I knew these woods. What was haunting me beneath the black sky was old and crippled, with foul skin and a bad knee that caused a limp and required frequent visits to the doctor for training with a hypodermic needle. When I was alone in the woods, I brought Brutus with me. I'd seen other boys play with their dogs, watched them run in the backyard, shrieking with joy while the dog chased after, overtaking them. My relationship with Brutus was different. I carried a walking stick I'd carved myself from ironwood, and I never smiled when I was alone. Why would I? Brutus followed, sometimes charging ahead to chase a squirrel or lingering over the deflated but treacherously barbed body of a porcupine. Sometimes Brutus sat while I lay on my side and stroked his chest. I need you, I told him, and Brutus turned his head away from me. I thought, I need him too much. I need him to be human. I had the sensation of colliding with a limitation. I paused finally and watched the trees for slashes of light, but saw none. As my heart settled and my ears became less occupied, I listened and heard nothing but the thready pulse exposed the